and when the anti-corruption movement and the Aam Aadmi Party, he set up Mohalla committees to look at the demand accountability from the government officials as to why the water was not working, why the electricity was expensive. He's still doing it with the Aam Aadmi Party, and he's been just a tireless worker for the interest of the poor. And so the four basic tenets of the Aam Aadmi Party is Swaraj, which is participative democracy and decentralized decision making. It can be called the second freedom struggle. First was from British, now is the struggle from our own avarices and our own systems that really are patterned after the British. I don't know if you know, the penal code that exists today in India is the same penal code that the British used to oppress India. The forest policy, the land policies, all the use policies are the same policies the British used. So what has changed? Only the color of the skin of the rulers have changed. In fact, British could be said they were less corrupt, perhaps. Okay? The Aam Aadmi first, that means the common man is the policy that drafted with the common person in mind, with the masses in mind, not just for the elite few, for the rich, but policies for all. There's zero tolerance for corruption, and the old divisive policy of caste, class, and religion. And this is the way, see, we used to say British has divided and ruled. You know, have you heard British had the policy of divide and rule, the Hindu against Muslims, and this class against that, Maharaja against this and that? The same thing is done by the existing political parties. So make no mistake, unless we change something, unless we have a fundamental change, we are compromising the future of a very young and bright India, which we have. We have the largest population of young people in the world. In fact, the young people in India outnumber the population of any other country except China. So the last one is the Constitution, which is the frame of reference for justice, equity, and diversity. Now, Constitution can be amended, just like the Bill of Rights, what they did for the US Constitution. Similar things have to be done with constitutional amendments to give some of the changes that are vitally needed. Now, AAP is not wedded to any ideology. It believes in the appropriate role for state and the market forces in removing poverty and in providing education, healthcare, security, utilities, services, and infrastructure. AAP is for privatization where it makes sense, and for an open process with public support that does not feed more corruption and protects the citizens. It is not a leftist ideology, but a very practical approach. For example, a priority for AAP is on K through 12 education for the masses who cannot afford expensive private schools. Now, the Parliament, some time ago, passed the Right to Education Bill. There's no funding for it. There's no monitoring for it. Half the money that's existingly in Delhi goes in corruption. 5,000 schools are non-operating on paper alone. I have a personal experience. When I went to India in the villages, I asked where is the government school, because there were 3 government schools. There were none. They said, okay, where the teacher comes? The teacher comes under this tree. I waited 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. I went to the block development officer. He said, you know, well, maybe he's ill, he's this. Finally, the teacher came. He said, please, excuse me, the students don't come. The student said, the teacher doesn't come. The teacher said, there's no building. The student said, where are you going to go? And these are non-functioning schools on paper. A person gets salary, where money is expended for building. Nobody knows where it goes. And they're trying to find through RTI and other means. It's just one example. AAP will make these 5,000 non-functioning schools become good schools in Delhi to compete with the best of private schools. When I came to US in 1965, I went there, I was surprised. My kids grew here. There was no tuition I had to pay. I didn't have to buy books. I didn't have to buy stationery. Everything was provided by the state. And America is a capitalist country. And India at that time was a socialist country which has nothing for anything to do with education for the masses. Everybody sent to public school. I went to Delhi public school. It is a private school. The public school means is different from parochial school, which is not a religious school, but there are no public schools that we see in the United States. And this is going to change and has to change. AAP will not privatize defense. I mean, you know, volunteer army paid by mercenaries. AAP will not privatize police services or roads and airports that are common to the people. It will not sell national wealth for pittance just because of corruption, making millions of people homeless in the name of development. This is happening today with the mining interest, the Elari mines. You must have heard of that scam. It's happening in Jharkhand. It has led to the Naxalite movement. When you throw millions and millions of people out of the land and think just because you get 4,000 crore. The chief who was really indicted of Jharkhand, the chief minister, he had amassed 4,000 crores in 2 years, selling these mining and moving the people out on the point of a gun. And when that didn't work, Salva Judam, private militia, got involved in it. So this is something that we need to check. The people need to be displaced and there will be compensation. There are reasons why they should be displaced, and they might be because of eminent domain and something needs to be done, but they should be adequately compensated. The people who are not by the dam, okay, and we can go in the merits of the dam or not the merits of the dam, they're never being compensated adequately. And these are things that are for people, the masses, because they are powerless. And I just want to kind of end on a little bit of our momentum, which is that India's political mood, as I've been reading and following, is changing rapidly. In a recent survey by our report in Outlook magazine, 47% are willing to give chance compared to 33% of BJP and 27% for Congress. In the chief ministerial popular ranking in the poll, Arvind was on top at 38.5%, followed by Sheila Dixit 18.5%, and the BJP candidate Vijay Goyal with 12.1%. Another poll showed that the vote share of 27% for AAP, 32% for BJP, and 26% for Congress. The public is giving 47% favorable reading to AAP compared to 31% unfavorable reading, but for BJP it's 32% favorable to 52% unfavorable. For Congress, it's slightly more favorable, 37%, but even more unfavorable, 62%. So the question is, people are saying, I'm going to want to vote because this party, I don't want to get BJP in. Okay? The people who are threatened minorities who feel that communal policies might be bad for them. Other people are saying, I want to throw the Congress out, so I'll vote for BJP even though I don't like them. Well, today, for the first time, the people in Delhi have a viable alternative. Arvind recently went to IIT Delhi, and on the spot, after a panel discussion, there were 4 other panels, when he spoke, 450 IITians in the audience joined to be active volunteers for AAP. I mean, this reminds me of Berkeley, in the time of the anti-war days. And then the common people, the activists, Tehelka just reported there are over 100,000 unpaid foot soldier volunteers for AAP working in Delhi. And it is changing the game. So the question of, there are people, auto rickshaws, who are without any money putting the AAP boards on their auto rickshaws. The government is cracking down on it. They said you cannot have them. This is illegal. You can't have a political car. Other people are doing it all the time. So the Supreme Court, they went to Prashant filed the case, they said ruled in the favor, so they can have the thing. And there are all kinds of pressures involved. They put posters on people's houses, they were pulled down. So what they did is they put photographs of the person and Arvind Kejriwal on the posters, and got them done. So they won't be taken out. I mean, this is just kind of, the amount of pressure. The was fighting against electricity, the electricity of the candidates was cut, with 7 policemen going there and doing this. So the existing power structure is fighting hard, like the empire will strike back. Okay? But you want to make the change, like David and Goliath battle, Nirbal ki ladai Balwan say, you have to have courage. And that's what Arvind says. I'm doing it with courage. Now, how many of you, let me have a show, saw the Satyagraha movie? I want to have a show of hands. Okay. I think it's a wonderful movie that opens the